Welcome back. This is Goku Sun DBZ, and welcome back for a new movie review. This is the review for Silent Hill the movie. Awesome case, in my opinion. Silent Hill the movie is a very special film, in my opinion. This is a film that is arguably the best comic book adaptation, at least in my personal opinion. This is my favorite video game live action adaptation of all time. One of the big things that helps this film keep its feel and loyalty to the video game that it's based on, one is the fact it has the same music, and that is because it actually got the original composer of the Silent Hill games, or at least all but like one Silent Hill game. He did the music for, as well as going to be doing music for the spiritual successor, The Medium. But with that said, in my opinion, I am glad, like Resident Evil, they made this rated R so it wouldn't hold them back in the blood department. Blood and gore, because that is kind of a signature in Silent Hill, just like Resident Evil. Though I feel that's a little bit more of a Resident Evil film. But the difference is, it's not all around a director directing a bunch of films to revolve around his wife. That's a great thing that separates Silent Hill from that. Silent Hill, the people involved were actually, some of them were actually genuine fans of the video game property. In fact, the one who would direct the original Silent Hill was a fan of the Silent Hill video games. Which is why it is easily one of the most loyal to the source material, arguably, of any Hollywood film adaptation. In my personal opinion, maybe there was another video game adaptation closer, but still, I think overall, it did a great job. One, you have the same music as the game, which helped keep the atmosphere. That's another thing this film excelled in, along with the video games, is great music, such as this piece playing right now. The music really helps the atmosphere, and yeah, they did alter some stuff from the video game storyline, of course, but for the most part, I think it did do a lot of stuff right with adapting from this, the classic original Silent Hill game. One key difference, though, with the movie versus the original Silent Hill game, yes, it still revolves around, of course, the girl. Difference is you don't mainly have strictly the father searching. He's not stuck in Silent Hill. Instead, they decided to go with the option instead mother, which really didn't play a role in the original video game. But they decided to do that instead. I guess they felt maybe it would do a better job targeting movie audiences instead of worrying about strictly the fan base, but arguably, even though they did change that aspect, at least they did keep the police officer involved. Also, you had involvement. A certain nurse would make an appearance in this, of course, but you would probably remember them also the nurse from the video game as well. Now, there were different aspects added in addition to strictly stuff from the original video game, with, of course, the key characters like Alyssa. But one of the big differences in the movie versus the original game, you also have the addition of course, Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head, of course, never appeared in the original Silent Hill video game. He would appear in Silent Hill 2 for the first time. This would be the game that he first appears in. Yeah, this special custom case I got made. Now, arguably, Silent Hill, it was, I think, actually not a bad idea necessarily to add elements of Silent Hill 2. I get it because a lot of people see Silent Hill 2 as the greatest in the Silent Hill series, and arguably a lot of people feel Pyramid Head is the symbol or mascot of the Silent Hill franchise. That's obvious, given Pyramid Head actually appears in both movies, strangely enough. Now, in the game series, he doesn't really appear much of anything outside of Silent Hill 2. Though, to be fair, also one thing I didn't appreciate about Pyramid Head in Silent Hill movie is the fact he ends up killing like other people, random people, which is not in the nature of Pyramid Head. If you played the Silent Hill 2 game, you know that he is more a manifestation of your guilt in your subconscious. That's one thing I appreciate, though they still at least adopted elements from in the film. I appreciate at least a little bit more respect to the complexities, though not quite as complex as the video game psychologically speaking, because we would be going down a trench, speaking as someone who owns every Silent Hill game made. I have played now, I can happily say, I have played every Silent Hill game. And I will say, I'd still appreciate the Silent Hill movie. For me, it's my all-time favorite video game adaptation, and I feel it does, for the most part, a superb job adopting many of the great aspects of the Silent Hill video game, as well as elements from Silent Hill 2. There were certain aspects in the game, I will say, artistically, some backgrounds and stuff, though, that didn't feel like Silent Hill 1 or 2, strangely enough. There are certain background elements and things in the film that actually reminds me a bit of Silent Hill 4, The Room, interestingly. Now, the interesting thing is there were creatures, original creatures, designed for the Silent Hill movie originally. Funny enough, they would end up adopting to the Silent Hill game, strangely enough. They would bring elements from Silent Hill movie to Silent Hill game, which made sense because this game was released around the same time as the film. And that is a game I feel doesn't deserve quite as much as it gets, though it's still not the greatest game, but still, it was interesting adopting stuff from the movie to the game. And of course, that being Silent Hill Homecoming. There are certain creature designs and stuff in this game that really, or rather in this movie, that end up appearing a lot in this game. One specific creature, as well as, strangely enough, also involving more the nurse creatures as well. Which is cool, because it was always one of my more favorite creature designs in Silent Hill, was the nurses. But with that said, atmosphere, music, storytelling for the most part, I think is great. Creature designs are superb. All around, I think this is a solid, great adaptation. It's not only a great video game adaptation, it is also an incredible, I think, even standing on its own, as a solid horror film. The first Resident Evil movie was good, but it was an action horror film. This is an actual solid horror film with not a huge amount of action, and that's good. That keeps more of the spirit of the survival horror aspect alive, and I appreciate that. As many other aspects, one of the key things, though, is the child actor in this. She really is good. Not only playing the innocent younger girl, but also playing the evil alter ego of course, Alyssa. I think that's good, and of course, I knew her prior to this because she appeared as a character in Smallville Season 2 as a childhood friend of Lana Lang. Fun fact, if I mentioned this in that review. But anyways, overall, grading, what do I give Silent Hill movie? On my grading scale, I give it an A+. As a superb, great film adaptation, as well as a solid, and unlike Resident Evil, the CG has not aged as bad because it didn't rely heavily on a CG creature. It predominantly used the CG more for like the razor, like barbed wire and everything like that, and the blood and gore. There were here and there a little bit on like certain people they ended up doing animated, like when first Pyramid Head grabs this woman, tears off her clothes, and then tears off her skin and throws it. Yeah, you could tell that was CG, but kind of had to given the scene. But with that said, still, I think the CG was done a lot better, more well executed in this than Resident Evil. Plus, I appreciate how they did a good balance between CG and practical effects, cosmetics. That is very much appreciated, especially with a lot of the creatures. That was a smart idea to go, and because of that, I feel this film ages better from a technical standpoint. Because of relying less on CG and more on practical effects, that helps it age a lot better in the long run. But in my opinion, if you've never seen Silent Hill, do yourself a favor and watch it. And sometime in the future, I may review its sequel, which I feel gets way more hate than it actually deserves. But with that said, this is my second and final normal, of course, special horror movie review for the month of October, and I may or may not do a special third Hollywood, or rather, Halloween themed film for Halloween. We shall see. But with that said, Goku Sun DBZ signing out, stay safe, and happy Halloween. See you soon enough.